Good evening. Thank you for joining our Halachas of Loshon Hara group. We're in the middle of Sefer Chafetz Chaim, nearing the end. Klal Ches, or Sif Yud Beis, and maybe a Gimel as well. Okay, so the Chafetz Chaim till this point was discussing who is allowed to speak Loshon Hara, who is not allowed to speak Loshon Hara, to be more accurate, who one is allowed to speak about, and who, the most recent Seifim, we're discussing who one is allowed to speak to. Loshon Hara, one is allowed to speak Loshon Hara too. Okay, so the Chafetz Chaim continues on that note, and he says one is not allowed to speak Loshon Hara in general to a Jew, but it's all the more worse if one speaks Loshon Hara about a Jew to a Goy. So if Reuven would speak Loshon Hara about Shimon to Levi, all Jewish people, so then it's bad enough. But if he would speak about Shimon to a non-Jew, that would be a much greater sin, he says. Why? A number of reasons. First of all, you're embarrassing the entire Jewish nation. Non-Jews are going to say, look, this is the way Jews are, they do bad things. That's number one. Number two is Chil Hashem. It's Bechil Hashem. They're going to say, Hashem's people do these kind of things. That's number two. Number three, it's going to cause greater damage to the person himself, as opposed to if he said Loshon Hara about Levi to another Jew. If he says about to a Jew, first of all, it's different if it's your own family, so to speak, and people, they understand, people make mistakes, and they won't jump on Loshon Hara so fast, and maybe they know the laws of Loshon Hara, and they won't believe it as fast. But if one speaks Loshon Hara to a guy, he has no such qualms, and about not believing it, and he'll jump right on it, he'll believe it right away. He'll spread it out much further than it probably would have gotten spread out if it was to a Jew, if it was told to a Jew. And therefore, the damage and the embarrassment that this Jew is going to suffer about the Loshon Hara is going to be worse when it is told to a non-Jew. Okay. And then he brings down a different point, another point related, and it's much worse if one is malshin. Malshin means that one reports on another Jew to the authorities. And I'm not talking about something which is dangerous. If one Jew is doing something dangerous, which threatens another Jew, and he is the only way to stop it is by reporting it to the police or something, or reporting to the governmental non-Jewish authorities. We're not talking about that. That's 100% permitted, and in many cases, or every case, he should do that. We're talking about if he's doing something perhaps which he shouldn't do, it's illegal. Maybe he's not being honest in business. Maybe he built an illegal deck in his backyard and somebody, calls the police about that. It's not really affecting anybody, but he rats him out to the authorities. That is a very, very terrible, terrible sin. Chafetz Chaim says, quotes various Gemaras, he's on the same level of an apikoris. He's considered someone who denies Torah's Moshe. Terrible, terrible things are written by someone who's a malshin, someone who informs on another Jew to the non-Jewish authorities. So a person has to be very, very careful about that. And he says in Sif Yud Gimel, we'll close with a quick thought. He says in Sif Yud Gimel that when it comes to accepting Loshon Hara, he says it's very simple. The basic klal, we spoke about this, specific details in the past in previous groups, get-togethers, but he says Bekitzer, he says the rule is that one is not allowed to accept Loshon Hara. The basic rule is one is not allowed to accept Loshon Hara about a Jew unless he's an apikores, and we discussed unless or he's someone who is removed himself from the Jewish nation by doing various sins of that magnitude. And we discussed also that being an apikores is not so simple these days, as a real apikores is very hard to come by. So basically, in all practical purposes, to accept Loshon Hara about a Jew is very, 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 very rare. Again, unless there was a couple of situations. And however, just to reiterate what we said before, that a person is allowed to be choshesh. Again, accepting Loshon Hara means I accept it in my heart as truth, and that would be a Kabbalah Loshon Hara. But just not to accept it as truth, but to be concerned that perhaps it's true and protect myself from any recurring loss, either physical harm, monetary loss, or spiritual loss, that would be permitted, and that would be permitted to tell other people, to warn other people who might be affected in the same way. That would also be okay. But again, not to accept it as truth in one's heart, and that's the basic rundown he gives about accepting Loshon Hara. Okay, we'll hold it here. Until next time, thank you for joining. Have a wonderful evening.